It began with a whisper, soft and almost too fragile to hold weight. But in the world of entertainment, whispers often carry truth. Soo Kai, whose presence commands screens and hearts alike, and Songyun, the delicate and graceful actress known for her charm and depth, were cast together in a historical drama. The drama was called Moonfall Pear Blossoms, and from the moment it was announced, anticipation surged through fan circles. On set, they portrayed star-crossed lovers torn by family duty and political conflict, but what played out off-screen was far more compelling. Cameramen and production staff began noticing small things. The way Soo Kai waited for Songyun even when his scene was wrapped. The way she laughed more freely around him. The subtle touch on the back, the knowing look. The way their conversation continued off-set even after filming stopped. Though both actors maintained a professional facade, it was clear that something gentle and beautiful had started to bloom between them. As weeks turned into months, their bond deepened. The drama wrapped, but their connection did not. They were spotted by fans sharing late dinners, walking along Hangzhou's peaceful lakeside path under paper lanterns, and slipping into quiet tea houses where they'd sit for hours, lost in their own world. They neither confirmed nor denied anything, leaving room for the public to guess, to imagine, to hope. Behind the scenes, those closest to them spoke of a quiet, blossoming love rooted in shared values, humility, simplicity, and a love for culture and tradition. Soo Kai admired Songyun's wisdom and playfulness. She saw in him a stillness that steadied her spirit. They both longed for a life outside the spotlight, one filled with meaning rather than spectacle. And then it happened. The announcement came not from tabloids or press releases, but directly from them. At precisely 8:08 a.m., both posted identical messages across their social media accounts. With the blessing of our families and the love of those who've supported us, we begin a new chapter, together. There was only one photo. Their hands intertwined, two simple wedding bands catching the morning light, with soft cherry blossoms gently falling behind them. The world paused. Social media platforms buckled under the rush. Fans cried, screamed, laughed, reposted. Media outlets raced to cover the love story that had captivated an entire generation. The most admired stars in Chinese entertainment had married in secret, only to unveil their joy in the most tender way. The wedding had taken place in Lijiang, tucked quietly beneath the gaze of the Jade Dragon Snow Mountain. It was serene, ethereal, private. They had chosen not a grand hotel or ballroom, but a centuries-old wooden estate overlooking wildflower fields. The ceremony was modest yet deeply rooted in tradition. No paparazzi. No announcements, just the gentle blessing of nature and a handful of family and friends. Songyun wore a custom-made Hanfu wedding dress, soft lavender in hue, embroidered with symbols of fidelity and peace. Soo Kai, tall and graceful, wore a dark green robe with golden embroidery that reflected his quiet strength. Guests wore muted tones, honoring the natural beauty of the landscape around them. The ceremony was led by a renowned tea master. In reverent silence, they offered tea to their elders, exchanged handwritten vows, and made promises that transcended the language of fame and fortune. Afterwards, a feast was shared. A spread of traditional Sichuan cuisine, honoring Songyun's heritage, and southern delicacies from Soo Kai's upbringing. There were no toasts or clinking champagne glasses, only the laughter of loved ones and the soft hum of traditional Guzheng music playing in the distance. It wasn't a celebration built for headlines. It was a sacred promise built for a lifetime. Stars and fellow entertainers soon flooded social media with love. Actress Bai Lu shared a heartfelt message, referencing her friendship with both, writing, "Some hearts are just meant to meet. So happy for these two beautiful souls." Other colleagues like Wang Yiba expressed admiration, stating, "They showed us what real love can be." The fans, though, carried the joy in a different way. They created art, songs, edited montages of their past drama scenes, and imagined their journey with hashtags that trended globally. Some organized lantern releases in various cities, symbolizing wishes for the couple's happiness. Others created digital scrapbooks and romantic playlists in honor of their union. Across forums and fan sites, One message echoed over and over. We believed, and it happened. Unlike other celebrity couples whose love stories became headline fodder, Soo Kai and Tan Songyun moved differently. They remained grounded. They settled in a traditional courtyard home in Hangzhou, away from Beijing's constant buzz. The house was filled with natural wood, shelves of poetry, scrolls of calligraphy, and the scent of sandalwood. The heart of the home was a modest kitchen and a garden that bloomed with seasonal flowers. Neighbors would occasionally catch glimpses of the pair strolling hand in hand, walking their Shiba Inu, or sipping morning tea by the garden pond. Inside their home they had a daily rhythm. Mornings began with meditation and calligraphy practice. Afternoons were spent either reading, scripting, or visiting nearby tea shops. Evenings were for music, simple meals, and each other's company. It wasn't glamorous, but it was real. And that made it magical. 2 weeks after the announcement, they vanished from public sight. Speculation ran wild. Some said they had flown to Santorini. Others believed they were in Paris. But in truth, they had taken a spiritual retreat in a secluded monastery near Tibet. There, removed from the noise of the world, they spent their early days as husband and wife in quiet reflection, seeking blessings not just for themselves, but for their journey together. They prayed, lit incense, studied ancient texts, and reconnected with the essence of commitment. A monk who later spoke anonymously said they had asked for nothing material, only wisdom, patience, and enduring love. Their humility left a deep impression on everyone who met them. As they returned to public life, they did so with purpose. They launched a joint venture, Eternal Spring Studios, a production company focused on authentic storytelling, historical drama, and uplifting tales rooted in Chinese tradition. Their first production, Stillness Under the Moon, was already generating buzz. A period romance starring the couple as rivals turned lovers, it was said to be a visual masterpiece in the making. Their return wasn't loud or brash. They appeared on a single talk show where they spoke about art, partnership, and the responsibility of telling stories that reflect depth, honor, and humanity. Soo Kai shared how love changed his perspective. Before I chased perfection. Now I chase peace. Songyun added, love isn't about being perfect. It's about choosing each other every day. They became more than just celebrities. They became a symbol. Schools invited them to speak. Cultural institutions partnered with them for awareness campaigns. They advocated for traditional craft preservation, mental health awareness, and youth education. They quietly funded the restoration of several old tea houses, and even sponsored a scholarship fund for aspiring actors from rural areas. Their fans continued to champion them, not because of scandal or spectacle, but because of the authenticity they exuded. Even their disagreements, as one insider shared, were rooted in respect. They don't raise voices. They write letters to each other. When emotions run high, they retreat, reflect, and return to love. As the years progressed, they made it a tradition to spend each wedding anniversary back in Lijiang, where it all began. There, they would walk the old stone paths, visit the estate where they were married, and light a single candle at a temple for continued blessing. Their story became one of quiet power. In a world that often values noise over meaning, Soo Kai and Tan Songyun chose the opposite. They chose a love that did not need validation, applause, or spectacle. They chose truth in its simplest and most enduring form. And somewhere beyond the headlines and fandoms, beyond the endless scripts and red carpets, they lived each day with the kind of grace that novels are written about. Theirs was a love that didn't just survive fame. It elevated it. It reminded an entire generation that real love doesn't shine the brightest under spotlights. It glows in the silence between shared glances, in the comfort of presence, in the act of being seen and chosen every single day. Soo Kai and Tan Songyun weren't just stars. They were, and remain, soulmates written into the very rhythm of destiny. And their love story, told quietly yet powerfully, will echo for generations to come. And as time went on, their bond only grew stronger. While the entertainment industry continued to evolve around them, Soo Kai and Tan Songyun focused on meaningful impact. They adopted a second dog, a golden retriever they named Young, meaning moonlight, as a nod to the drama that brought them together. Their quiet family expanded with love and laughter, creating an atmosphere of harmony and peace. Every few months they traveled together, not to glamorous resorts but to rural villages, temples and schools. They supported artists and craftsmen, buying traditional paintings, sponsoring weaving apprenticeships, and even helping an elderly calligrapher publish a book of his work. One of their shared dreams came true when they opened the Songyun Cultural Arts Center, a space for underprivileged children to learn painting, dance, and theater for free. At home, their days remained simple. Su-kai grew herbs in their courtyard garden, while Songyun wrote stories inspired by their travels. Some evenings, they'd perform short plays together, reciting poetry or reenacting historical scenes for a small audience of family and neighbors. They weren't performances for applause but reflections of their shared soul. Occasionally, they'd return to acting. When they did, the screen lit up in ways it hadn't before. Their chemistry was no longer an illusion. It was lived, it was real. Directors and producers clamored to work with them, not just for fame, but to experience the authenticity they brought into every room. Years passed, but their commitment to each other and their purpose remained unwavering. They celebrated their 5th anniversary by renewing their vows under the plum blossoms in their backyard, surrounded by a circle of friends, their dogs, and the children they mentored. That day, Songyun whispered during the ceremony, "5 years ago, you gave me forever. Every day since has been proof that love, when nurtured gently, can move mountains." Su-kai kissed her hand and replied, "And I will love you through every season, every silence, every storm." The media continued to admire them, but they never lost themselves in the spotlight. They remained a source of hope. A reminder that love doesn't always shout. Sometimes it simply endures. Quietly, softly, cluelessly. And when asked in an interview marking their 10th wedding anniversary, how they managed to remain so devoted in an industry known for its chaos, Su-kai responded with a smile, "Because our love began with a whisper, and we never stopped listening." Songyun added, "And because we didn't marry the fame, we married each other." In a world ever hungry for spectacle, their story remained an enduring beacon, proof that when love is real, when it is kind and gentle and true, it can outshine even the brightest spotlight. After more than a decade of a love story that felt pulled from the pages of a novel, Su-kai and Songyun stood stronger than ever. While others in their industry cycled through headlines and scandals, the couple remained untouched by the chaos. They were rooted, calm, and deeply devoted. Their story, already immortalized in the hearts of millions, was only just beginning a new chapter that would surprise even their most loyal fans. The world had witnessed their quiet courtship, their sacred ceremony in Lijiang, their years of peaceful devotion in Hangzhou. They had grown together not just in love but in spirit, purpose, and vision. Their film studio, Eternal Spring, had become a beacon for quality cinema. Instead of chasing profits, the couple chased legacy. Every production they touched was wrapped in emotional depth, historical integrity, and cultural reverence. They weren't just actors anymore, they were visionaries. But one day everything changed. A letter arrived at their home. It was old, delicate, and sealed with the symbol of an ancient theatrical guild. It had been sent by a renowned but reclusive director, Master Li Shen, a man who hadn't made a film in over 20 years. In the letter, he asked them to take on the lead roles in what he called his final and most ambitious project, a story based on real ancient lovers whose tale had been buried for centuries in the archives of forgotten dynasties. The script, handwritten and bound in crimson silk, arrived days later. Songyun wept after the final scene. Su-kai closed the final page and stared into the garden for hours. They knew this wasn't just another role. It was a calling. And they accepted not as stars, but as custodians of history. They agreed to spend an entire year in preparation, studying ancient dialects, swordsmanship, poetry, and the philosophies that defined the era they would embody. Filming took place in the remote mountains of Qinghai, far from any trace of modernity. There was no electricity, no internet, no mirrors. just raw landscape and the echo of wind through pine. The film was titled Echoes of the Vermilion Phoenix. It told the tale of forbidden lovers, an imperial princess and a wandering philosopher, who found each other in a world that forbade their union. The story mirrored Soo Kai and Songyun's real-life bond in uncanny ways. Each scene they filmed felt like a meditation, a rediscovery of their own passion. Their performances were unlike anything the crew had ever seen. There were moments when even the mountains seemed to stand still. The director, a man of few words, shed tears during a rehearsal. When production wrapped, the cast and crew held a silent ceremony under the moon, burying the final page of the script beneath an ancient tree to honor the story's spirit. When the film was finally released, it didn't just break records. It shifted the soul of cinema.